Now, it's clear from these results that the majority of Canadians are interested in foreign policy decisions. So, do Canada's current foreign policy objectives line up with the concerns of Canadians in this report?
Yeah, one of the interesting dimensions is the extent of consensus there is across both supporters of the Liberal Party of Canada and the Conservative Party, across different genders, across different regions of this country, and across different age groups. And so it suggests that Canada's foreign policy interests are relatively unchanging and that there's a fairly broad consensus. And one of the key findings of that consensus is a strong urge to work more proactively with other democracies, that is to say, with countries that share our values, that share our understanding of stability and prosperity, and that share our particular way of life. And we see that, for instance, in terms of support for organizations such as NATO. There is, of course, support for multilateralism, but that support is not as strong as that support for working actively multilaterally with other democracies.
And the Indo-Pacific region was highlighted by Mr. Devlin in his report in terms of democratic ties. What are the benefits to increasing ties in this region in particular?
There's a huge amount of economic growth, of course, in that particular region, as well as the prospects for significant conflict. And so Canada inherently benefits from stability in the world. So we want to make sure we have a stable Indo-Pacific region, we have a prosperous Indo-Pacific region, and we have a democratic Indo-Pacific region. And we all know that democracy has been frail in some of the countries, and the Chinese efforts to undermine democratic institutions in the area don't help. But Canada has long been missing in actions in the Indo-Pacific. And so this is an opportunity to remind Canada that we have three oceans that we border and that it's important to be present and proactive.
And we mentioned that China was a sticking point for Canadians in the poll. So what are our current ties with China, and how can we stand up to its authoritarian regimes while still considering our dependence on Chinese trade, considering that it is one of our top trading partners?
Yes, it is. But of course, by vastly our most important trading relationship with the United States, followed by the European Union. And so, for instance, only 4% of our exports go to China. And so this, I think, is sometimes overplayed by some particular commercial interests in Canada. But inherently, we also have an interest in a stable China, in a unified China, and a recognition that China is an adversary, but China is also a competitor. It is a rival, but it can also be a peer and a collaborator on issues, for instance, such as climate change. And a much more sophisticated and systematic China policy, I think, is one of the elements that comes out of the poll, being more systematic in the way we engage with China and much more thoughtful than we have been.
Now, from the findings of this poll, it seems that the more informed Canadians are about foreign policy, the more involved Canadians want to be in political affairs. So what does this mean for the future of elections, Mr. Leuprecht? We've got about a minute left.
Yeah, so, I mean, it shows that one of the ways of getting Canadians engaged at the polls is precisely to make them realize that there's a strong connection between our domestic interests and our international and foreign policy interests, because those inherently reflect back when there's instability in the world or when prosperity is being called into question, or democratic values. Then that has real implications for Canada, especially in an age when our interests are diverging somewhat from our closest ally, the United States.
All right, Mr. Christian Leuprecht, Queen's University professor and MLI senior fellow. We always appreciate your time on Forum Daily, sir. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.